Today we're going to go over Frieza's patch notes. We're going to go over exactly what they mean and why these are buffs. In my opinion, Frieza got almost exactly what he needed. These buffs are actually kind of incredible. Once again, Arxis shows that they truly understand these characters and they understand the game. They understand what we want to do when we play this game, and these changes easily reflect that. The first change we're going to talk about is Frieza's auto combo. They went ahead and buffed the distance traveled on the second part, and they removed the projectile properties on the third part. What this means is he just has a much more reliable auto combo in terms of tagging whipped buttons or just poking at neutral, and then this now beats super dashing. Not only that, but the third part hits higher upward. This is a good buff in and of itself, but what this is actually targeted at is Golden Frieza, so we will be going over that a little bit later, so just keep that in mind. But overall, even for base Frieza, this is a nice buff, and it'll help him out in the neutral quite a bit, but with Golden Frieza, it's going to be actually kind of amazing. Next up is pretty big. Both of his mediums were buffed. The distance traveled on his crouch medium and stand medium. Crouch medium now travels a little bit further, which is nice, especially considering it's a 2-hit low. It's already 10 frames. It's already a great way to bait guard cancel, so now it's an even better button that travels even further at the same speed, which is also going to help him with a lot of his combo routes and loops. The fact that move travels a little bit further at the speed that it does, it's going to make a lot of his combo routes like a little bit easier. So that's a nice quality of life change. But the big one, and the buff that almost everyone's talking about, is his stand medium. His stand medium has always been like an okay button. The main problem with it was it would lose to pokes a lot, like kind of from the mid-range from about here. Usually you would get hit before, making contact with them. So Arxis's idea of buffing it was to not only make it hit more quickly at a close range, but they also extended the range a bit. So even from here, you can still tag them with your medium. And yes, even from full screen, it still works. Why they gave him this, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I'm not going to complain, but this is pretty substantial. There are just so many applications to a full screen button that travels that quickly. It only takes 25 frames to hit from full screen, and that's not much slower than his actual key blast, and he has one of the fastest in the game. So having a normal that travels that fast, and they did not mess with the scaling or anything else on it, it still works as is. It still scales like a medium, but it just travels the full distance of the screen. So this is just a huge buff that leads to a lot of new possibilities. Okay, so this next one is huge. Literally, this is Frieza's most requested change since the later half of Season 1, Season 2. Frieza's 2H is now a physical attack. And for those that don't know, Frieza's 2H since the launch of the game until now has been considered a projectile. Look familiar? Ever seen a clip of a UI just flipping on Frieza for free? Well, not anymore. Another bad situation for Frieza before the patch was he was unable to punish a Roshi guard cancel. When Roshi guard cancels, he keeps his projectile invincibility from his, unique super dash. So Frieza was unable to 2H him, even if you knew the super dash was coming. But now, it actually works. And of course, the biggest meme of all, previously the worst matchup in the entire game, now has a ray of hope. Love to see it. This next change is another big one, possibly his biggest buff in this patch. The change to his 2S. This move has always been good on paper due to the fact of the angle it covers. These two angles are where most of the neutral takes place in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Most times when you're fighting your opponent, they're either going to be normal jumping or super jumping, especially against Frieza. 9 times out of 10 against Frieza, your opponent is not going to approach you from the ground because his toolset on the ground mostly prohibits this pretty well. So most times they're going to be in the air, and this move covers that. However, before the patch, in order for this move to actually be useful, it had to make contact with the opponent. For example, if you make contact with a jumping opponent, it actually gives a very good amount of frame advantage, and it jails into death wave, which can set up for assists, it confirms all sorts of things. The problem is, though, if you were to whiff this move or mistime it, you were left very vulnerable. However, now thanks to the buff he received in this patch, you're able to cancel the recovery of this animation into special moves and your heavy buttons, which means you can whiff it and steal 2H out of your recovery, which is insane. So with that in mind, you can freely cope with this anti-air tool, and if you're wrong and you miss, you cannot be punished. It's kind of crazy. It just goes to show that Arxis really does understand what these characters need and what we want to do with them. This is just another example of that. Again, this might be my favorite buff. It's going to change the way Frieza's neutral is played, and I'm very, very happy with it. Next up is Jump 2S. Now this is a very fun buff. Very, very fun, very high utility. The focus of this buff, there's two focuses of this. One, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's aimed at helping Golden Frieza, and we'll get to that. But two, it gives Frieza new combo routes. So now this move sends the opponent flying upward on hit, which allows you to now get a super dash from mid-stream. I really like this buff because it's their attempt at giving Frieza a way of mimicking the rest of the cast. Frieza is one of the few characters who does not have any way of getting a traditional smash attack in the air. Most characters will either, smash up or to the side. Frieza has neither of these, so when getting like certain confirms, let's say you get like a 2M confirm with Frieza, your routes mid-screen are kind of limited, especially without assists, but now he has a lot more options thanks to this, and there's certain routes that you can extend for much more damage than what was offered before. This is another great buff that's really going to help his toolkit quite a bit. Next up is the buff to his jump light kick. On paper, this one might seem a little weird. It's slightly faster when done from an air dash. So you might say like, okay, what does that do? What's good about that? Well, there's two different reasons that's actually incredibly good. The first being that Frieza has never been very good at cross-ups. I'm sure we're all familiar with Frieza's usual cross-up route. So having to spend a bar on a cross-up, not cool. But thanks to not only the speed buff, but it also goes hand in hand with the Air 2S buff, and now you get an actual cross-up confirmed mid-screen. This is pretty big considering Frieza's only real way of getting any sort of cross-up damage Pre-patch was, as I showed before, you would have to vanish in order to get any sort of damage, but getting meterless conversions off of a cross-up is an incredibly strong tool in this game, and it seems to be another universal thing that Arxis has tried to add to many characters, and with Frieza, it's greatly appreciated. The other buff to the jump light we will save for the Golden Frieza section, as it pertains mostly to him. So next up is 22S. This is a very nice buff for him. In the previous versions, if this move landed on normal hit, you would have to vanish cancel in order to actually get a confirm. Either vanish cancel or call an assist to get any sort of confirm, and even then it would be tricky due to the way your assist would knock them away from you while you're still in recovery of the move. But now, thanks to the new hit reaction from the Season 4 buff, you get a ground bounce even on normal hit. This is good for a variety of reasons. The simplest explanation being this move is a true cross-up. The opponent has to switch their block in order to guard it correctly. And also, in my experience, using this move at neutral usually causes your opponent to attempt a 2H because it looks so similar to a vanish. And due to the fact that it looks like a vanish, it leads most people to try to 2H, which would lead them to get hit, which would cause you to have to spend a bar. But now that you get a confirmed for free, that is just a huge change. So not only does this move have good invincibility to get you out of certain situations, such as like a not so tight block string, and then of course his full screen combo conversions and corner combo conversions, but now you get the ground bounce, which used to only be on airborne opponents, on grounded opponents as well, even on normal hits. So that is a very, very welcome buff. And last but not least, everyone's favorite install, Golden Frieza. Golden Frieza has had a rocky road over the course of this game's lifespan. The developers have gone through a lot of different attempts to make Golden Frieza seem worth it, and it definitely has only gotten stronger each patch. That's one thing, except for in Season 2 when they accidentally nerfed it with meter penalty, but that's another story. Even though the developers have continuously buffed this form, Frieza players have still been reluctant to actually use it because it doesn't feel good to have a time limit hanging over your head, having that knowledge that, man, any minute now, this might wear off. And that could still happen, of course, but now the likeliness of that happening has gone way down, thanks to the fact that you can actually reset the timer. So anytime Golden Frieza is tagged out, the timer actually resets. So as long as you keep a slight mental note of how long Frieza's been in, all you have to do is tag, and you can retain that form potentially for the entire match. Better yet, if you get a KO with Golden Frieza, that resets the time as well. So with that change, you can play Golden Frieza with a lot more peace of mind. And outside of simply adding the countdown timer reset, as I've stated many times before, most of his other buffs were aimed at just making this form more dangerous. So the auto combo change, good for base Frieza, amazing for Golden Frieza. Golden Frieza, for those that don't know, is able to do what's called reverse beats. That's where instead of going light, medium, heavy, you can go in any direction you want. You can go heavy, medium, light. This is something that's unique to Golden Frieza and Adult Gohan. Thanks to the changes in the properties to his auto combo, he's got some great new reverse beat routes. Jump 2S, another multi-purpose buff aimed at both base and Gold Frieza. The reason this is so helpful is because this gives Frieza some great options while in Sparkling. In sparking, if you can jump cancel your normals on block, as everyone knows, and thanks to the fact that 2S now launches on hit, if you want to try to open up your opponent without getting 2H'd, you now have this option. Being able to mix this move in now with his other jump cancel options from his buffed block strings in Spark is going to make Golden Frieza even more deadly than before. Now we're going to revisit the jump light kick buff from earlier, but this time with Golden Frieza. So Golden Frieza also, of course, benefits from this move being able to cross up, as it'll help him with his, sparking block strings and different things like that, and just his general movement speed. But where it really helps him is his combo routes. I'm sure most people are familiar with Golden Frieza's standard BMB. Pretty standard combo, right? Well, thanks to the change to his Air Dash Light, he can now do his more damaging route, which existed pre-patch. You could do this combo before the patch. It was just very, very difficult due to the timing required. But once again, Arxis, flexing their knowledge and, showing that they truly understand these characters and what we want to do with them, the buff to the jump light made his, what I assume will become his new B&B, much, much easier to do. Lastly, I want to talk about the new system mechanics and how they affect Frieza. And thankfully, all the new mechanics seem to highly benefit him. If you're the type of Frieza player that likes to save your spark for Anchor Golden Frieza, then this is definitely the patch for you, because thanks to the way sparking functions now in Limit Break, as long as you are making contact with your opponent, your spark timer pauses. So that is insanely good for Golden Frieza, because not only are his combos long as hell, but sparking initially pauses Golden Frieza's timer on its own. So if you're in sparking and you're making contact, you're extending your spark time and your Golden Frieza time every time you make contact with an opponent. And as we all know, Golden Frieza does, more than a little bit of damage. So if you're actually making contact and opening up your opponent, your Golden Frieza in sparking is going to last much, much longer. And if you add that on top of the fact that your timer also resets when you get a KO, the likeliness of making Golden Frieza comebacks is now higher than ever. And just briefly, I wanted to touch up on just how good the new tag mechanic is for Frieza. This move right here, if you're a Frieza player, you know just how hard this move is to convert. The window on when you actually get a wall bounce from your vanish is so small that you almost have to preemptively vanish to actually get that wall bounce. But now, thanks to the new tag mechanic, you can wait until the very last minute and still get a conversion that costs you no meter. And that change is insane, because if you layer that with Frieza's usual gameplay, it creates a situation for the opponent where they almost cannot afford to get hit. Usually people wouldn't mind so much if this move hit them, because pre-patch it didn't really lead to much other than potentially a vanish, combo. But now, if you have like a scary character in the back waiting to get tagged in, this move is insanely dangerous, not to mention this move, So Frieza's kit combined with the system mechanics has really reshaped him for the better. I feel like he's now like a complete character. Every single one of his changes has amplified some part of his game to, as I said, form one complete character. I could not be happier with these changes. Like, as someone who's been playing Frieza since season 1, I feel like he's finally, like, here, you know? It's like he's finally, like, a threat. And that's going to do it for my breakdown on Frieza's changes. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below. For anything in depth, you can head over to my stream at twitch.tv/MajinAcolyte. I'm live most nights. I love answering questions and helping people in any way that I can, so hope to see you guys over there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one.